Continuing. And then there's protracted periods of time wherein I'm isolated from meaningful political discussion and instead subjected to loops of commerce that strain my emotional state, only to have a small window of time to speak to one person about politics or what I can actually do, and it's as if the repressed and bottled up energy comes pouring out, which perhaps makes me look, at least from an objective point of view regarding what a good statesperson should be in communicating policy, as someone who cannot control themselves or is dominating, or worse, given the audience and the manner in which I am introduced to conversation. Like some smart, hot chick who needs some cerebral foreplay before she gets excited enough to have sex and probably close some deal via proxy that's percolating in whoever I am talking to, with or without that person's foreknowledge or even consent. Does it help me through verbalization to formulate a political argument or potential policy? Sure, it does. But that does not mean anything in a void of reciprocity, and I'm not going to sex my way into policy making, or business development, or micro or macro financing. And it makes me suspicious of women who do have any sort of political access. Even if she's married, I know about the bro code consciousness thing and that whole Masonic scam. How many of her buddies on the Hill or their potential contractees, funders, or even her potential funders, contractees, is she supposed to be connecting with when she's with her lover or her husband? The whole facade of libertinism and or sexiness of this form of commerce or statesmanship is voided when that woman is undermined and put in a position to recruit other women to be vehicles of sexual commerce in order to build or maintain political capital. And the whole scam is that in this model, men really have no actual capital of their own. They have to psychologically condition themselves and women to accept the subordination of female creative sexual potential to a male supremacist mindset, often facilitated by the whole no mind or you think too much, just relax scheme. And when many of the traditions being manipulated to effectuate this projects have associated the mind and its capacities to intentionally guide energy with the feminine principle. A woman with her own mind and her own naming rights and her own personal property is a great threat to that paradigm. And yet, it's set up to bank big deals on big minded women. So, next time you ask me how someone like me, smart and pretty, still doesn't have a job and is sleeping on the streets, please check in with your boys first and tell them you refuse to participate in any sort of Isaiah or other scam and stay the fuck away from you having a creative moment of intimacy with a woman. That means verbal foreplay. I am not a proxy for some bro that has a fiat currency. I'm not the proxy for women that allow themselves their own capacity to be farmed out because it is hard as hell to deal with the emotional issues that come up in this system. As a matter of fact, just don't ask me stupid questions like that. I won't ask you stupid questions like any questions I haven't asked already because I don't ask stupid questions like that. And don't backtrack now and say you shouldn't have excluded me. You did because I would never have consented to being used like this just as I do not now. You cannot apologize about this infamy. You cannot give me some, oh, I learned the error of my ways and turn yourself into some sinner that needs redemption. Your sin bond is canceled. If you have no other value to fall back on, that's your fault. Now, when I wrote this, I was literally on the streets, as I had said, and we are 2 years later. We're over 2 years later now, right? Actually, 3. We're over 3 years later. And nobody's actually talked about whatever this bullshit election interference was. And I have to ask myself, how many times am I walking around with all this testosterone and all of this really, really butch energy? Because some woman somewhere else in the world is wearing biometric accounts connected to my identity, and she's literally having sex with some guy that's pumping her with all of that yang. Literally. And I said in the summer of 2018 that it was prudent for people to undertake a period of celibacy that included self-pleasure until further notice. Because among the things that are happening is people are taking biometric accounts connected to actual children and hooking them up as currency to certain people's sexual activity. There's no reason for that to happen, but it is a form of blackmail and extortion, and certain people actually do it. That's not the kind of thing you confidential, and it's certainly not the kind of thing you lie about and call intelligence or counterintelligence when she refuses to cooperate. It's sexual extortion, it's electronic sexual assault. It's already illegal explicitly, and you don't get to cover up the fact that certain people bank their political career on taking beautiful girls and boys, including from a diverse rainbow spectrum, and trying to engineer their lives to finance their political ambitions, and then punish them when they said they wanted to vote for somebody else or maybe wanted to run against them themselves. And I'm sorry if you've spied on my emails and you don't like the racialized representations of this racket. It's that racist. It's that sexist and it's that unacceptable. You know, if you hadn't tried to do the bitch down with me all these years and make excuses for ignoring me, you would have had that woman as your attorney general.